Hey everybody out there, welcome to the Ronline Report. This is a very special edition. We're wrapping up the year in muscle, 2017. Who better for me to wrap up this year than the one and only Giles Tiger Thomas from the UK. Giles, how are you, sir?
Happy Christmas from the UK, mate.
I don't know if you guys can see this. This is actually probably going to air after Christmas. We're recording this. I got, a jacked Santa with some reindeer right here. But yeah, I believe this is probably going to air next week. But we're hard workers. We're getting this done before Christmas. So before we get into wrapping up the year, what everyone wants to know about Giles' Five-Finger Death Punch concert. How was it?
Oh, I'm still a bit disorientated from it because it was so amazing, mate. Because we saw them in June at Download Festival, a big heavy metal festival in the UK, and I had an expectation, but it was completely blown away because I met up with some friends. I met up with a guy called Tony Barnbrook, who was a very well-known Welsh bodybuilder that was the first bodybuilder I ever wrote about back in when I was 18, 19 years old. First article, first photo shoot I ever did, a studio photo shoot. And so he joined us and his partner came with us and stuff. And it was an absolutely fantastic experience because we watched most of In Flames. We missed of Mice and Men. But we were going. I mean, I wasn't there like filming the whole thing, but I got little bits of footage before we went in and off the show. Rosie going bananas, and singing to "Burn Motherfucker." That was the best one. Yeah, "Burn Motherfucker, Burn." It was just we were going. It's amazing because we were sat up at the side, and we were all everyone is all the heavy metal. I turned up in like a tweed jacket. And because I wanted to get the red handprint, but Rosie didn't get me any kids face paint, so we didn't manage to get it. But yeah, we were we were kind of dressed quite normally. There's all the heavy metal fans, and we were the only two going really crazy. Yeah. It was singing along. My voice went after the first 30 seconds, and it was amazing. You've never listened to, have you?
I mean, I've heard. I like a few of their songs. I've never listened to. I'm sure there's a lot of their stuff I'm not familiar with, but.
Well, the Goon, Chris, your best mate. There's a few tracks like Under and Over It, and
that's my favorite one.
I think you need to let more of Five-Finger Death Punch into your life. I think it will make your life better.
Now, Rosie, shouldn't strike me as someone who would be into that kind of music, but she is.
I've kind of got her into it.
Okay.
I've kind of got her into it, yeah, because she didn't like Slipknot. I started listening to Slipknot, and she said when I put it on in the house, it would give her like real anxiety. She said it would get her. It used to put her on edge because it's quite aggressive music. And
I prefer. That's my band. I love Slipknot.
Yeah, because I like it, but it does make me. It makes me a bit intense.
What's for training? I only use it for training. That's it.
Yeah, well, I have it in the house. I listen to it when I'm training on the iPod. I have the iPod stereo, literally playing all day long on a loop. And the Five-Finger. It kind of gives me a bit of a lift. It gives me a good energy, and it kind of always puts me in a good, productive kind of mood. So I have it playing like from 8:30 in the morning to 11:30 at night for like the last year and a half. So she's very. If she doesn't like them, she's the very, very understanding girlfriend because. Okay. But she kind of has got into it, and she's even our cleaner that comes on a Wednesday has started singing. Started singing the tracks now. She's actually she was doing some hoovering in the living room, and she was singing along to one of the tracks, and I was like, oh god, I think there's another convert.
Now, would Rosie ever try singing that style? You think?
Episode 7 of the Tiger and Rascal Show. There's plenty of her singing along. You'll see. It's quite funny actually. Okay. Yeah, it's really good, really funny. So it was it was just an amazing experience. It was brilliant. We saw Steve Avery there, who was down in the mosh pit. I don't think he broke anyone's jaw this time. So, because he said, no, come in. Sorry?
Who is he?
Steve Avery was he was one of the guys that was that close to turn, like the Matt Mendenhall or, the Edgar Fletcher, the guy who was really good, but never quite turned pro, but won like British championships from the junior. I mean, he just won the over 50s British, and he kind of competes every 2 or 3 years, always wins. Beautiful poser, kind of like a British Lee Labrada, but a bit, kind of thicker, and he's got like a big long beard now, and he was there, and because he said, "Oh, you're going to come down the mosh pit with us?" And I said, "No," and he said, "Oh, it was brilliant." He said, "Last time I was there, I broke a guy's jaw." He said, "It was fucking brilliant." I was like, probably not going to take Rosie down there. Then I don't want to get us. If she gets trampled, then there's going to be a riot. So
now you told me Phil Heath is actually friends with that band, Five-Finger Death Punch.
Yeah, I was on Instagram, and I said, well, I'll do a quick, 1 minute Instagram live. So I popped it on, and I started filming the concert. And then, a couple of friends started popping on, and then all of a sudden, Phil Heath pops up, and it says, my fave band. And I went, Phil, question mark? And he went, yeah. He says, I bet you didn't know that I know them, do you? And I was like, I was trying to watch it, and, I'm going, are you sure this is Phil? And he says, yeah. He says, I'm friends with Chris, I think the drummer, I forget his name now. Chris, he says, I'm friends with him. And I think it was Phil, because one of Phil Heath's best friends, Chris Wilson, do you know the big tall guy with the red mohawk?
I've seen pictures of him. Yeah, can't tell you.
Yeah, he's good. He's one of Phil's best friends, and he works on custom cars, and I think he does a lot of stuff for Phil with his cars,
Okay.
the turbocharging and all that. And we were at the Olympia, and he was saying that because I think he saw some of my stuff on Facebook, because we're quite good friends with him. And he said, he says Ivan Moody, this is the lead singer. He said he's from my hometown. He says we all kind of know each other.
Wow.
So that's where the connection was. So Phil was saying they should play all the tracks from that band, and he was made a few comments. And he says, look guys, enjoy yourself, and got to go. And I was like, well, that was pretty cool. It was. And there was another one of my Instagram followers, what you want to call him, and he was saying, I love you, Phil. I love you. Uh-huh. He's got, I love you, Phil. Please answer me, Phil. And I'm thinking, fuck off, man. I'm trying to talk to him,
I would never have pegged Phil Heath as five. That's my small-mindedness. I would not have thought he would be. I didn't think he even knew who they were. That's just my very small-mindedness. Yeah.
He said that's his favourite band, and he said there's a lot you don't know about me. He says a lot something like people don't know about me. He says but I'll share. I don't really share much about my personal life, but I'll share this one sort of thing. And I was like, well, that's pretty cool of him, because I've not been too complimentary about him in the forums. I was thinking maybe is he coming on to have a go at me or something? But he was cool, and I thought I felt a bit bad afterwards actually, but but it was nice. I thought it was a nice little highlight whilst you're at a concert having a great time, and all of a sudden your couple of your friends pop on, and then fucking Mr. Olympia pops on. It was great.
Crazy. All right, well, we better start talking about this year because it doesn't have much time left in it. I figured first we'll talk about what I consider the big three shows: Arnold, New York Pro, and Olympia. So I can't remember. Were you at the Arnold? I can't remember.
I wasn't at the Arnold. No.
You were not at the Arnold, but you followed along. It was, Cedric. Cedric won a great victory over the late Dallas McCarver, and I was so happy to see it because Cedric's a very different kind of physique. He's very unique. I would have been happy for Dallas too had he won. Either one of them, I would have been very happy for. Yeah. But it was cool to see Cedric because he engaged all the rest of the guys in the pose down after he had already won the top 6 guys, and made sure everybody got recognized for their efforts. Gave a big speech encouraging unification, and we should all get along and this and that. I mean, just what a great guy! It was just a cool show to be at. What do you recall from the Arnold from watching and following along at home?
Well, I mean, it was obviously no disrespect to Cedric, but the overall standard was kind of down a little bit. I mean, if you compare it to the list for next year's Arnold, it was kind of like the other one, when Dexter Jackson won it in 2013. It was a weak lineup, but sometimes, even if the lineup is weak, a big win like the Arnold, you can never take that away from Cedric. Even if he goes in and doesn't win next year's Arnold, he's still an Arnold Classic champion, and it's the main Arnold, which is the second biggest show after the Olympia. Right. So I mean, it's funny because I've said this several times on Ronline. It's he kind of brought a better physique in terms of size, but I think some of his conditioning it wasn't great at that Arnold. But like I said, his physique had improved, but his conditioning wasn't even that when he came second to Kai the year before in 2016. So that was a good one. Obviously Dallas. I mean, what can you say about Dallas? It's a terrible shame. It's we're never going to see him again. It's tragic, but. So guys like Max Charles, who we saw at Tampa, who was very impressive actually in the flesh. Yeah. But I mean, I'm very excited about next year's Arnold. I think this thing with the split with some of the all the other the Asia and all these different Arnolds that they had. Yeah. they didn't seem to be attracting the depth and quality that I think maybe Arnold expected.
Right.
So I think it's quite good that they've gone off to the other side of the IFBB and the Arnold Australia, which is a week later, which you're still going to get most of the same competitors from the Arnold America. Yeah. I think it's given the prestige back to the Arnold.
Right.
You know, it's like you can say Dexter's won how many Arnolds, but to me, he's really only won those Arnolds at Columbus, because that, for me, is the only true Arnold Classic title. It's like, you know, it's like Rosie calling herself Miss Olympia because she won the Amateur Olympia, and she's not Miss Olympia, you know? Yeah. She's an Amateur Olympia.
Dexter has 5 Arnold Classic titles. I don't know how many if you add the other ones in, but, you know, we're all looking forward to. We're going to talk about the Arnold. We're going to talk about in another Ronline coming up, the next Arnold, but he might be getting 6 of those. You know, which would be, he's already broken the record. This could be another pretty damn good record. But yeah, I agree totally with you. Some of those Arnold lineups this year, because we covered them all on MD. We didn't necessarily have full coverage for all of them, but we would either do play-by-play or pictures. There was always some level of coverage. And some of the lineups, I was like, wow, this is almost embarrassing that this is an Arnold Classic. So I'm kind of glad those other Arnolds are going to be. It's called IFBB Elite. Is that what they're?
Yeah, it's gonna. But I think because when it all happened, I mean, you remember the Olympia, and we heard all about what was happening, and I think the kind of the word at the Olympia was like everyone was kind of saying it amongst themselves was like, look, I think it's all going to come down to what Arnold decides. Yeah. And you were hearing rumors that Arnold was going to go that side and he was going to go the other side, and in the end, he was very smart because he kind of split it, because I think he hasn't done away with those Arnolds, but he's kind of appeased. He's kind of kept everyone happy, and I think that was such a smart move, and it's going to give a real prestige back to the Arnold Classic America. It's not going to be. I think he had a different vision for it that maybe didn't work out, but it's gonna make the Arnold Columbus a much more prestigious show, like it used to be, you know, before all the other Arnolds. And the good thing is the Arnold Australia is a week after. So like we were talking to Cedric at he was on our flight coming back from San Marino, and he says, oh, absolutely. So I'm going to do the Arnold Australia. He says, because, you know, with Tony Doherty, he's been a good supporter. He says he's pretty much going to get most of the guys from the Arnold, you know, because it's only a week later. So it's great.
And, you know, your favorite guy from the 90s, Kevin Leveroni, is going to be making an appearance competing at the Arnold Australia. And
yeah, last show.
Well, no, he clarified that the last time we talked for his MD show and said 2018 will be his last season.
Okay.
That may or may not be his last show. You know, Kevin likes to leave options open, which is good. Keeps things exciting.
Yeah.
So the next big show that we had of the 3 big shows, I consider New York Pro. It was you know, Sergio Oliva Jr. This is a guy that when he turned pro, I'm going to be totally honest, I was not impressed with him. I said, this guy's, and I wasn't even comparing to his dad because I don't think that's fair to do that to anybody. He's a different person, but I just didn't see the potential for him to be a top pro at that time. And I think that was just 2 years ago he won the USA. But he showed up a completely different bodybuilder at the New York Pro in May, beat a lot of very good guys. It came down to him and John De La Rosa. And I would have been so happy for John because it was his hometown. John's such a great guy, worked so hard.
I like De La Rosa's physique, man. I think he's really underrated.
Right. And it just came down to a few points, I believe, and Oliva Jr. He out-conditioned him a little bit, and he's got a hell of a physique, this kid, if he just keeps improving. He's still fairly young. I know he's already over 30, but that's, you know, compared to some of these guys like Dexter, he's still a kid, still very young in the sport. That was his pro debut. What were your thoughts on him when you saw the pictures and videos from him at the New York Pro?
Well, I think firstly, his condition was amazing. And 2, I like, you know, remember when in 1992 when Kevin Navrone came along, I mean, I know second at Chicago, but then he won the Night of Champions, nearly beat, you know, he got second at the Olympia. To see new faces like that, because every few years, sometimes, especially the Olympia, it's the same guys over and over again. I think sometimes we kind of get it goes a little bit stale, and I think attention goes to other classes. So when you get new faces like this, and they come in and win and it's not just the little pro show, you're talking, it's the third biggest, you know, most prestigious pro show there is. Right. It's the one that all the new guys go to. It's the one to get your face seen. So for him to go in and win it, I was so shocked. I was like, I mean, even I was watching some of the play-by-play on MD, and there was people saying, "Yeah, I think I've got him 4th or 5th," and then he won it, and it was. And I remember hearing because a good friend of mine, he speaks to Sergio quite often. He's been reaching out to him for a couple of years, and he was like hearing the story about how he got himself a one-way ticket because he couldn't afford the ticket even coming back, and he's kind of at that stage where it was make or break. It was probably like, right, I need to, if I don't make, like when Dorian made, he said, if I don't make top 3 at the New York Night of Champions, he said, I'm going to retire. Imagine if that had happened. So to go in like that, it's a real kind of, it's a great story because obviously the guy must have really struggled to do that. Yeah. And to go in and win the New York Pro, I mean, it's fantastic.
And something had happened, I'm not going to speculate or whatever, but something happened where one of his legs was completely washed out, like no detail up until, he had inflammation and all this, to the point where he was not going to be able to do the show at a few days out, and he resolved the situation, and you would never have known anything was amiss when you saw him on stage. Both legs were just sliced up, crystal clear, crisp cuts, everything. Plus, he had that issue that I think he just resolved fairly recently, was his wife was like stuck in Australia. She's an Australian citizen.
The visa, wasn't she? They've stuck out there. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think she's back now. Let's hope so.
But I loved his conditioning because for me, that's to go into any pro show, you've got to be kind of conditioned. But to go in and really kind of make a statement and win a pro show like that, I mean, the thing is, sorry to go on about next year's Arnold here, but I thought he was wanting to do the Arnold Classic, and I didn't see his name on the list. Why is that?
I haven't talked to him, I'm not sure why, but I'll find out before we talk about Arnold soon, because I was really looking forward to that too. He certainly had enough time between shows, because he didn't do anything after New York Pro. Yeah,
because we had a good talk with him at the Olympia, didn't we? Because as soon as I bumped into him and I said, "Oh, you like comic books, don't you?" And he went, "Oh, yes, I do, Giles." So we were stood there talking for like 20 minutes, and when you meet him, you realise how young he looks. He looks like a kid.
Yeah.
I felt he looks like in his mid-20s, and he's really, but I didn't realise how tall he is as well, because he's like my height. He's like nearly 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd like to know what's happening with him, though, because I know he's got a good contract with his old school labs. Yeah, so things are happening for him now. He's got a pro win, and I think it's nice to see the new faces, but it's also nice to see, get a good support, and because they are the next generation, and obviously there's the connection to his dad, which makes for a fantastic story. So, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic.
So let's. We'll save the Olympia for last. I think that's only fitting. Let's talk about some of the athletes who are on the rise this year. First one I want to talk about, just because I was so impressed. I was at every show that he did this year. Was that Derek Lunsford?
I was just going to say him. Yeah.
So what a story! You were in Tampa. We had just been at the USA. It was like 4 weeks before that. No, wait a minute. What am I saying? It was like a week. 1 week. So I'm in Vegas 1 week. He wins the USA. And then, jumps right into Tampa, and we saw this kid dominate the 212 field, which had some decent people in it. Samuel Haddad, a few other really good guys. It's not like he beat a terrible lineup. Yep. And then he wraps up the year with top 5 at the Olympia in the 212. Yeah, stunning rookie year for that kid. And he is a kid. He's 24.
24.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So nowhere but up, that kid.
Well, Derek, I messaged Bob Chick a couple of months ago, and I said, Bob, I'm guessing here, because I think I put a post on I think it was on MD and Instagram. It was a picture of Derek just sat down. You and me took it when we saw him at the Expo at the Olympia. And I said, did Derek win the Rookie of the Year? Because I've not seen anything. And he said, Giles, he won it by a landslide. Landslide. Yeah. There's been some good rookies coming out this year, and it's like, he said, Giles, it wasn't even close. He said it was a very easy decision to make. But I said this in our Olympia wrap-up, and I said, I honestly think he'll be the next 212 Olympia. Not next as in next year.
Right.
Think if Flex retires or moves up or whatever, I think Derek, he's 24 now, I think maybe 2, so I don't know how long Flex has got left, but, you've got guys like Hadi coming through. I think he's a serious threat to become 212 Mr. Olympia, and I liked him as well. He's a nice guy. He's got a beautiful physique. He's just, I mean, that frontal bicep you posted from the USA's, I just remember seeing it on Facebook when you posted it, and I went, holy shit.
Yeah, because structure and shape are the two things you can't change. And he's got really great structure and shape. Yeah. He's got a lot of muscle. He just needs to keep seasoning it, get the maturity and everything. But I think he's gonna be seasoning that 212 pounds for a while, because he's already, I don't know if you've looked at his Instagram lately, he's put some good size on already since the Olympia.
But he was only about 208, wasn't he, at the Olympia?
Yeah, so a few pounds.
I mean, you think about like Lee Labrada. I remember that one year from 1990 to 1991. Lee Labrada put on 4 pounds, and he's a similar height, 4 pounds of muscle, and his physique transformed. Yeah. So, and you know what it's like? Sometimes these guys can maybe be in shape at about 215 and then suck it right down, and they just look crazy. I mean, Dorian used to lose muscle to kind of get that condition. So I think Derek, I don't know really how, because he's put that muscle on in a very short space of time, because he was a welterweight. He was like 176 or something like last year or something.
Well, 3 years in a row he moved up weight classes. It was welter, middle, light heavy, 3 years in a row. Yeah, every year. Because he's really only been training like a bodybuilder. He's only been living the bodybuilder life for like 4 years.
Oh, wow.
So he's still a growing boy. Absolutely.
Some people are just born to do this, aren't they? They're just born to do it.
You know, like Flex Lewis, he was born to do this. Phil Heath was born to do this. Derek is in that elite category. And like you said, I see that kid being the next multiple 212 champ once Flex is all done and rides off into the sunset or goes into the open, whatever he does.
Well, it depends if Hadi can get his visa.
Yeah. What is up with that?
But I heard sorry to keep talking about the Arnold, but I heard he's doing the Arnold. But I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute, what's happening with this visa thing? We'll talk about that another time, maybe. Yeah,
it's probably unresolved. I'll do a little digging. So another guy, rookie of the year in bodybuilding, definitely Derek Lunsford. Classic physique, rookie of the year, no question. Chris Bumstead, holy moly. So he does this. You know, he turned pro in 2016 as a bodybuilder at the North American. Makes his first appearance in May at the Pittsburgh Pro, wins that. A few weeks later, I was up in Toronto, and I saw him win the Classic Physique up there, and I was very, very impressed with the proportions, the lines. And, you know, he's not a small guy by any means. He's 6 foot. He's about 225 in shape with a waist like a 8-year-old Vietnamese schoolgirl. You know, he can hit a vacuum in like any shot. And then, you know, he wraps up the year. I think he lost by a couple points to Breon Ansley at the Olympia. And he's 22 years old. 22. Wow. So, you know, he needs a back. He needs a better back if he's going to beat Breon. But, you know, 22 years old, I'm sure he can do it. And, you know, a little more arms. But that's who I predict. You know, you don't have to be Nostradamus to do this. But I see him being the next guy after Breon and holding the title for multiple years. He's just, he's a great looking kid. He's got the height, the structure. I think he's going to be the face of classic physique. I do.
My main concern is that he's got a good support system around him, because, you know, you think about when Flex Lewis was young, you know, these kids, someone like Flex, he's just come from like a little village in Wales. So, you know, he had Neil Hill. He had Neil Hill to guide him and look after him and look out for him, and someone with more experience and more kind of life experience. I just hope that Chris, you know what I'm saying? Basically, when you get a lot of these young athletes, sometimes, and they get a bit of fame and a bit of money or whatever, and sometimes it can send them off the wrong track. So I'm hoping that if he's got a really good support system, and he's got and a good head on his shoulders, then absolutely he could win that for fun for years. And he could. I mean, I think he kind of already is the face of the classic, because he's him and Breon, the most talked about. Right. And he embodies everything that the classic class is. And I'd like to see a bit more of him as a person, because all I ever see on social media is just him hitting a front lat spread in his kitchen. I'd like to say, you know, I might even contact him and see if I can maybe, tutor him a bit, or sort of help him a long way, because I think that kid, you know, especially with things like their social media, I want to know something about him. I want him to be able to inspire the younger guys, you know, that want to get a physique like him, because he has got an attainable physique. It's a beautiful physique. It's you know, it's he looks healthy, he looks good. You know, he trains hard, he's strong. He's, you know, he's kind of, you could stick him on a front cover. He's marketable, and it's like, I mean, you saw how much excitement there was around the classic class. I was blown away by how much interest there was in the classic class, possibly because, you know, the open class maybe has got a bit predictable maybe over the last couple of years, but I didn't think the classic class would grow as fast as it has, and I think it is down to people like Chris Bumstead. He's incredible. I just want to see a bit more personality. I'd like to, because when we spoke to him briefly at the Meet the Olympians, he seemed very quiet and shy, and
he's soft spoken. He's not one of those crazy outgoing personalities like some of these social media stars. They're not that accomplished as athletes, but they have these crazy loud personalities that make people want to watch their videos and just watch them rant and rave and stuff. He's a lot more subdued than that. I'm just very glad he didn't tear his bicep with Callum von Moger doing that stupid 405-pound curl.
Oh, what were they thinking?
If you're watching this, Chris, please don't ever do that again.
Oh, God, that's a good way to end your career before it's even started, really. Seriously. And it's just doing dumb things like that. He doesn't need to do stupid things like that. He's there, and he's one step away from being a literal superstar in the sport. I mean, that classic class, a lot of eyes are on that class now, and so doing stupid shit like that, he doesn't need to do it. He doesn't need to, like, do sensational, crazy things to get likes. It's stupid. It's stupid. He's young, but he got away with it. Callum didn't.
So we were just talking about Hadi Choopan. I've yet to see this guy in the flesh. You've actually seen him compete? Yeah, that's right. You were at the what show? Which one? The San Marino show? So he took second in the Open to Cedric McMillan, and he still was under 212. So yeah, tell me about this guy. What's it like watching him in person on stage?
He translates in pictures, but he also, you know, sometimes you see him in pictures and they don't look. I mean, the guy was hitting. He's like a thick tank, but he can do vacuum. He can do a vacuum. I mean, like, and literally, I think he's only. And I mean, it's not even a weak pose. It's just not an absolutely pose. It's his readable bicep. I just think he lacks a bit of detail. Yeah. But then his rear lat spread he's. I mean, there was a lot of people that had him beating Cedric, and Cedric was on. I mean, Cedric was sliced, his hamstrings, his glutes, everything. I mean, I did some filming, remember, for MD, and in Cedric's routine, I zoomed right in on his hamstrings, and I panned down up from his calves up to his lower back, and everything was tight, because that's usually Cedric's problem area. Yeah. But Hadi was just, and I love the way he poses. He like punches him. He punches into the pose. He's a real. It's like watching Ramy at the Arnold Europe, because Ramy's really sorted his posing out, and he's really kind of knows, he gets the crowd going, and he uses the right music, and it's kind of like everyone's just on there. He just created so much excitement, Hadi, and and like I said, the next morning I was on the MD forum, and I was saying, I said, but that's not how he would look as a 212, because obviously he was about 225 because he was too big. 25. And I messaged Patrick, and Patrick was having breakfast with Dennis James, and Dennis James says, no, he was under 212.
Wow.
But I tell you what, Hadi, though, it all comes down. It creates quite a lot of excitement and drama, because the tension around this visa issue. I really want to see. I just hope to God it gets sorted out. I think maybe if it's. I want to see him in these shows. I want to see him up against Flex. I want to see this guy, because I mean, if he's coming, I mean, that lineup at San Marino was no joke, and he was clearly first or second.
Yeah. Because I mean, he didn't get a visa for the Olympia, which he was on the list, and where I'm at the Olympia, look at the score sheet. I'm like, where's this Hadi guy? I don't see him anywhere. He didn't make it. But then he showed up to his Korea, the Asia Grand Prix, a couple weeks later, and he really pushed Flex Lewis hard. So I'd like the chance to see those two at their best. Flex isn't doing the Arnold, so we're gonna have to wait till Olympia.
You can't really fault Hadi either. He's got every angle, every pose. He's got so much detail and so much like say Ashkenani. He's kind of big and full and round and freaky, but then there's areas where there's no striations, there's no detail, there's no tie-ins. It's blurry. Yeah. Hadi's not like that. He's thick, but it's all like the fine details. The kind of detail you'd see on like a nationals lightweight winner. Yeah. But he's thick. He's just. And I couldn't see any sighting, I couldn't see any sight injections or blurriness, no oil, which I always look for in these guys, which sometimes, the shorter guys, and you see them doing it and you can spot it a mile off because it's like a shine to the muscle. I didn't see any of that on him. So I just really want, to be honest, I'll go to any show that he's in America just to watch the crowd's reaction. Because I'm telling you, you'll
lose their shit.
I will lose my shit because I honestly, the American fans will go bananas for this guy. He's insane. He's absolutely insane.
I can imagine the New York crowd would just freaking tear the roof off.
Yeah, they'll go crazy. They'll go crazy.
You weren't in Asia, you weren't in Korea, but I mean, just looking at, you've seen him and you've seen Flex Lewis many times, and Flex I think loses a lot going down to 212. I love the way Flex looks about a month out.
Yeah.
I always follow social media, and I'm so impressed with him. And at the Olympia, I'm always like, he's still got a beautiful physique, an amazing physique. He's the world champ 6 years in a row, so you can't take anything away from Flex. But I think he does lose something getting down to 212, and Hadi clearly doesn't. I guess he's a little bit shorter, everything's just pow. He's got that pop. Everything's just bursting and grainy hard. Which I'd like to see those two go head to head, and who knows what will happen.
I think Hadi's got less weak poses than Flex, because Flex has a beautiful readable bicep. It's an absolute showstopper. Yeah. The detail, the lines, but then his rear lat spread, his rear lat spread for me and his front lat spread don't look right. I think they are weak poses. Yeah. I want to see those two next to each other. I really do. And I think Flex isn't daft. He knows what he's going to go up against if he goes up against him. But Flex always brings his best anyway. But like you said, yeah, I know what you mean. Flex does kind of lose a bit of impressiveness. But the thing is, he was flat at this year's Olympia, but because he was so shredded, I mean, nothing was really popping like normal because he wasn't full, but he's still so impressive when everything, because he's that detailed, like when his hamstrings, his glutes, his calves, it's kind of it's a very beautiful physique what Flex has. It's it's not just about his thickness and his size, which he's got, and the small waist. He's got those kind of classic lines, like the early Flex Wheeler type, where everything just flows and fits and goes together, So, but Flex is going to have to ring his best if he's going up against Hadi, no question.
I almost wish I didn't know what Flex looked like at about 225 or so, because if I didn't know that, I wouldn't be disappointed when I see him at 212. I'd still just be impressed and go, wow. But I know what he looks like, rounder and fuller. It's just, to me, that's such a better look for him that we're never going to see as long as he's coming down at 212.
Well, Neil Hill's always said to me, and I said this countless times on Ronline, I've said, Neil said to me like 3 years ago, I did an interview with him, and he says, honestly, Giles, he said, the best Flex Lewis, he said, has never been seen at the Olympia. He said, because like you said, at 225, he looks sensational, and he's still, if anything, he said his waist looks smaller because everything's so much fuller.
Right.
So I said, doesn't he look a bit blocky at that? And he says, no. He said, it's still the same physique that he had a few weeks ago. He's not going to put a thickness on his waist by regaining that muscle. In fact, everything looks kind of freakier,
Yeah, he has a better taper because his delts, he always has great delts, but at 225 or so, they're just so big and round. His arms are bigger and rounder, and his waist is the same. Yeah. Legs are rounder and fuller. We'll see one of these days.
Well, I'll say this. What Flex brought to the Olympia went up against what Hadi brought at San Marino, Hadi would have beaten him.
Yeah, okay.
But, if Flex comes at his best, then I think it'd be close.
Okay, so before we talk about the Olympia contest, the other big story of the Olympia weekend, probably the biggest story, was this crazy civil war, this split with the IFBB between Jim Mannion and Rafael Santoja. And I'm trying to recall exactly what happened at the Amateur Olympia. I believe there were dispute about the judges, and the Jim Mannion took all the judges from the IFBB International, those guys away, and installed his own judges there. Is that what led to all this? That's what Rafael went ballistic over?
Well, how I understand it is that all the IFBB Olympia judges were all called in at the Olympia. Yeah. Jim Mannion came in and said, look, this is happening. You're not needed. so thanks, but you're not needed. Because one of the judges was the British UKBFF president, Bill Cherney. Now, he was on the judging panel. I didn't see him on the judging panel. It was Steve Weinberger, Sean Andros, Tim Gardner, all Jim Mannion's kind of best judges, Sandy. Right. So they were kind of the Olympia judges, because those were the same judges that were the Arnold Europe and San Marino. San Marino. It was all those same judges, because I think he knows he can. That's his best judges. So he likes to send those teams. That's what they're saying with this new Two Bros Pro thing. They're saying, there's no sort of bias, because the American judges won't know who so and so is, so there's no bias. So it's good, really. I mean, it is tough, because obviously we're kind of, there's been a lot. I've refused to sort of say anything publicly or take sides or anything like that, but it's I believe that things will always work out how they're meant to be and for the best. I think if you adopt that and kind of just stay out of it, I think, because you hear things on both sides and it's hard. I don't really want to get involved, because
I understand. I mean, you're in a tricky position, as we call a sticky situation, because I don't know any of these European promoters or judges, but a lot of them, and a lot of them, people are being forced basically to take sides, and I'm sure a lot of people that are taking Raphael's side, as well as a lot of people that have taken Jim Mannion, the Pro League side. So it's got to be kind of awkward. You're like that guy that's a couple gets divorced, is like who stays friends with who and who doesn't talk to who anymore.
Well, I've been brought up in that kind of environment with my parents splitting and stuff, and I've always tried to remain neutral. And I think that's maybe why I've stayed in the industry so long, because when certain things happen, I always used to have an opinion and put it out there, and usually I'd regret it, because then you find out the other side of the story. And I think especially if you want to be respected or have some credibility as a journalist, you've got to kind of remain as neutral as possible. Plus, but the thing is, it comes down to one fact. It comes down to the fact that Rosie is an IFBB pro, and she's my partner. Yeah. So I will support her as an IFBB pro, and obviously I'm doing stuff with MD, which, as far as I know, is only promoting IFBB Pro League shows. Yeah. So it's a no-brainer for me. So I mean, we knew we were going to be involved with this Two Bros Pro, the posing seminars, and being involved in that when we went to the British finals. But we didn't say anything publicly, because obviously Rosie had athletes, and we didn't have any sort of. We just wanted to go quietly, watch the show, support the athletes. Which Rosie, she had two. She had one big wing who got Sam Forbes. She won a pro card. And Rosie got a girl called Andrea Corby, who got second in the women's physique. So you just want to, if there's any opportunity for any sort of negativity, I thought, well, we'll just stay quiet and we'll announce things after the show. So, and it's all worked out great.
So UKBFF is purely affiliated with the Mannion camp, IFBB Pro League, and what's their amateur? Is it just called NPC, or how do they refer? What do they? Yeah, see, I'm confused about how the amateur arm is going to work everywhere else.
Which side do you want about now?
The Mannion side. So there's still a UKBFF, that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But that's the UK's biggest amateur organization.
Yeah.
They're affiliated with Mannion?
No, they're affiliated with Raphael. Okay. So the winner of the British finals get elite pro cards to compete. Thing is, it's mostly elite in Europe now. So it's working out. The thing is, it's actually creating more opportunities for people to actually go and earn prize money. I mean, there's that Blessing Awadibu, the Irish, the kid from Ireland, the kid who he's won like 3. He won the Diamond Cup. He won the Arnold Classic Amateur. He's been like racking up the prize money. As an elite, he got like $9,000 or €9,000 just for winning that many shows. So there's good opportunity. I mean, maybe that kid's not ready for like the IFBB Pro League yet, but it's a good opportunity for him to kind of make money and so very few actually do make it to the Olympia and do well. So it kind of, I think people will know where they want to go. Plus, over in the UK, we've got loads of other federations as well. We've got these, another federation that popped up in the last couple of years that's big prize money that a lot of IFBB pros have swapped over because they don't want to travel or they want to just more opportunities to make prize money. So we've got a lot of choice in the UK, not like in the USA. In America, it's kind of like you go NPC or that's it, really, or IFBB. Right. But in the UK, we've probably got 4 or 5 federations which have all got a lot of opportunities to compete internationally as amateurs, earn prize money. I mean, Sean Tavernier, he's Sean Joseph Tavernier, the good 212 pros who forgave his pro card. He did like 6 or 7 shows this year, and he's made good prize money each one of them, you know. But these aren't IFBB shows, so there's someone that, you know, that's benefited from it, and then they've got other people like Nathan Diasher and Sasan who've gone on to do great things as IFBB pros. So I think everyone knows, everyone will end up where they're supposed to, I think. Right
on. So we'll talk about the Olympia last, but let's just touch on again the two big losses we had this year. Dallas and Rich Piana. Dallas obviously was the more tragic one because he was so young, just starting his career really. He was a couple of years into his pro career, and, you know, big things for that kid. I could have seen him as Mr. Olympia one day for sure. Absolutely. Where were you? Do you recall where you were when you found out about him passing?
Yeah, I was in the kitchen actually. I was. It's very difficult for me this one actually, because I've had quite strong opinions about this one, which haven't really gone down that well with a lot of people. Like much like Sean Ray's opinions did even before Dallas passed. Yeah. So it's probably best for me to keep a lot of opinions myself because I don't want to make a lot of enemies.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's tough. I think it could have been prevented, and as you know, I've been doing some stuff on MD Forum, and I said I think maybe this is a time for the IFBB or whatever, or not just putting responsibility at the IFBB's door, but like coaches, supplement sponsors. I think there needs to be a bit of a discussion informally about not enforcing, but encouraging more blood work, because I think that's one of the most preventative ways for any health issues to flag up. It's something I always recommend to young athletes up and coming. I say, make sure you get your blood work, make sure you check everything. And always, even when I get my blood work for my diabetes, I always get them to give me a copy of the results, because sometimes they won't give them to you. And I'll say, oh no, I lie. I say, I've got to give them to my coach or my nutritionist or something. And I always make sure I get a photocopied, and I go through them with every single, and I'm someone who doesn't compete anymore. So I think maybe this is a time to raise awareness of things like regular blood work, and maybe there should be some sort of. It's hard to give an incentive though, because you know what some people are like. They'll still want to, even if there's issues there. But I find it very hard to believe things weren't spotted before it happened. But it was terrible.
He had tremendous blockage in one of the ventricles, wasn't it?
But he had thyroid cancer as well.
He had thyroid cancer. I'm just saying those are two things you'd think should have been picked up on. I mean,
but I don't know. The whole when Sean Ray got a lot of heat for kind of saying, look, he shouldn't have been putting that much body weight, because that's not really a healthy. Oh, it's tough for me to say because I don't want to. It's the backlash. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes I think. This isn't a sport that needs to bury its head in the sand sometimes. It's sometimes it may be, okay, right, this has happened. This is how we can move forward and take something positive from an absolute tragedy. Yeah. Because that kid, he was very well. I never actually met him, but I know a lot of people, like Kevin Horton, always spoke really highly of him. He said he was a really good kid. And
he was such a good kid.
He seemed to be very well liked, and he kind of had everything, and it's all been taken away, and I just feel so bad for his family as well. So I feel it's a great sadness, but I'd like to see something positive come out of it. I would.
The big thing with Sean blew up after Dallas collapsed at the Arnold, Australia. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that should have been, talk about a red flag. I mean, the guy, he collapsed, he was vomiting backstage, and that should have been a flag. Go get yourself checked out thoroughly. Head to toe, every test and scan possible.
Don't brush things under the carpet. Get full scans. Like I'm saying, any athletes watching this, a friend of mine, I encouraged him to start getting some blood results because he got in my car and he's a big guy and he was out of breath. And I said, mate, you don't look well. You look red. I said, I said, whatever you're taking. I said, come off now. I said, do some PCT and get yourself some blood work. I said, so I really bullied him about it. And he got back some blood results, and a couple of things were really, really high. And the doctor was very concerned. And I kind of sat him down and I really explained, you know, how, yeah, it's fun when you're on tren or you're on this or that and it's great and you're strong and you're deadlifting 7 plates. I said, but, you know, you need to understand mentally and physically that's going to have an effect. So, you know, it's at the end of the day, these things are drugs. So you need to show respect for that and for your own body. And now he's completely turned around on it. He gets regular blood work and he's much healthier and he's a lot bigger as well. So
good job, Giles. Good job.
Thank you.
So the Olympia was our big extravaganza.
Yeah.
We covered it. We had a great time. We did it without press passes. Robin, I'd like to get some press passes next year, please. But we'll apply on time. I mean, it would have been so much easier with press passes, my goodness. But we did the guerrilla warfare type of coverage. Somehow got it all done.
We'll write the book. We'll write the book one day on what happened, really, what really took to get that much coverage and do a good job. Because I went back on that plane feeling pretty good about myself. I was like, yes, we did it, and we did a really good job. And it was a fantastic experience, you know, hanging out with you and Steve, and it was just it was probably one of the best Olympias I've ever had, and it was just a fantastic experience. I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I'm really proud of the job we did as well, because it was only
without you. It couldn't have happened without you. You know, I lobbied hard to get you there because I said, I know if I have to do this by myself and without press passes, oh my God, it's going to be the most lame ass coverage in the history of contest coverage. But, you know, thank God Tiger showed up from UK. We had Steve helping out, getting us places at times. It was a crazy weekend. And but the contest itself, pretty crazy too in some ways. I mean, Rami was knocking at the door this time. I mean, he had some really tough comparisons with Phil. At any point, did you think Rami might get the title?
Well, yes and no, because I was talking to Rosie about this today. It was, you know, the stomach thing with Phil and Roden. I think the IFBB missed an opportunity to really penalise those guys and actually bring quite a lot of excitement back to the sport. Now, imagine this scenario. Imagine if Phil, you know, with his straight first, imagine if they'd have knocked him down to 3rd. Imagine if they'd have knocked Roden down to 8th. What do you think would happen next year? Do you think Phil would come back with the same issue? Do you think... And can you imagine if, like, Rami had won or Bonac or something, and they'd have said, right, okay, then we're going to mark you down for that. He wouldn't have come back next year, or any of the other athletes, because they're kind of getting a green light that it's okay to turn up like that and you're still going to do well. Yeah. So, yes, Rami could have won that because I mean, like I said, Rami's made a big fan out of me this year. I was always very critical of Rami. Yeah. But, you know, at the end of the day, that guy is really, every single time he's improving. He seems to be really... Yeah, I mean, his legs were, you know, really detailed, and he kind of grows on you, you know. And it's that rear bicep and the side chest. He's actually got quite a nice shape. Yeah. So
and he's enormous, just enormous.
Yeah, but he's actually got quite a nice shape. In some poses, he looks a little bit blocky, and there's not much like detail and sort of. But it's coming, and I think, you know, if they had sort of penalised, I don't think they would. Say if they'd have knocked Phil down to 2nd and said, well, look, it's purely because of that, you know, then Rami would have won. And imagine how much excitement that would have brought back next year. You know, Phil down and... Could you imagine, though? Could you imagine?
And, I mean, I don't think, you know, based on when Phil won, there was so many boos because Rami has a huge fan base. I think a lot of people would have been equally happy to see Rami win. You know, he certainly got... You know, obviously the entire Middle East was behind Rami. A lot of Europe is behind Rami. A lot of the American fans were behind Rami. A lot of people just preferred his look at that show.
Do you think that's why people were booing?
When Phil won, I think it was, I think a lot of the people were hoping Rami was going to get it, especially the way those comparisons were going. And I know that was theatrics for the audience, putting Rami in the middle a couple times and this and that. But, you know, legitimately, he could have won. I mean, what does Phil have that he doesn't? Phil's got... You know, a lot of detail, a lot of crazy detail that Rami still doesn't have. But that's all I think he really has on him.
I think Phil. I mean, if Phil had come in with no stomach, he would have walked it. I wouldn't put Rami in his class. I don't think they're. I know it's just, but because of the stomach, I think he should have been. I think he should have been marked down for it. I really do, and I think, and then that would have pushed Rami to first. But if Phil had come in with his normal flat stomach, then I think no one would have touched Phil. But I think it would have really, for me, that would have made the Olympia absolutely mind-blowing if that had happened this year. And then obviously next year everyone will be speculating, oh look, and then Kai Green will be thinking, oh, they've knocked Phil off, or maybe I'll come back as well, and Dennis Wolf would come back. And I just think really, I think sometimes they miss opportunities to really, where they think they're doing, I don't know
we're always trying to figure out what's going on in these judges' heads, and we just don't know. I guess maybe I got to get one of them on here soon and really
do it,
ask some tough questions. Yeah, I mean, Steve Weinberger said months ago he would do it. I sort of dropped the ball and didn't follow up.
Steve would be brilliant because Steve won't pull his punches. I remember I picked Steve up from the airport once when he came over for the British Grand Prix, and it was me. I picked Sean Ray. I picked Sean Ray up first, and then we picked Steve up, and then we got stuck in traffic for 5 hours. There was an accident on the motorway, so basically I was stuck in the car with 5 hours with Steve, and Steve was really interesting, and that guy's got a lot of passion for the sport. And I know he does get a lot of criticism, but you know what? It's because he speaks his mind, and he does actually. He knows his stuff. I'm telling you, I was really. I had a completely different impression after I spent those few hours with him, and he really. He's not. Yeah, I think he'd be fantastic to have on because he will answer your questions. And won't think, because he is the federation, he's kind of like the main guy, so he's not going to be thinking, oh, maybe I can't say that, because he'll just tell you straight. And I think that would be, if you ask the sort of questions like, sort of, okay, this has been said, that's been said, he'll just tell you straight.
Yeah. So the big surprise of the show, I wasn't honestly a William Bonac fan until this Olympia. I was like, he's all right. I was kind of impressed by him, but this year I was blown away. Third place, he moved up. This is a guy that was a 212 competitor not that long ago. He still is only, about 225, 230?
Must be, yeah.
He's significantly bigger than when he was 212, but compared to Heath and Rami, a 230-pound guy is a smaller guy, but it just goes to show you quality trumps quantity. This guy had the best condition, I thought, in the Open Olympia by far. Just detail everywhere you looked. He reminded me of Kai in that aspect. So he turned me into a fan. You were already a Bonac fan. You sort of discovered him, if I recall.
Yeah, that was the end of 2010. I had my MD column, the Euro Muscle Scene, and I put him even before he turned pro, and I remember seeing when he got third at the Arnold 2011 in the amateur in the heavyweights, but he was quite thick-waisted, and then he came back and turned as a 212, and he lost the waist went tiny, and he put those size on, and then obviously moved up, but he really struggled that year. He did the 212 to make 212, really struggled, and he's put a lot of size on since then. Now the thing I don't get about William Bonac is, no one really sees him coming. Every single year, that guy moves up. I said this on the MD Forum today. He moves up. He went from this is his Olympia placings in the Open: 13th, 8th, 5th, 3rd, and he's won. Countless pro shows, beating the guys that beat him at the Olympia. So, and yet still, like now, I'm seeing predictions for the Arnold Classic, and people are saying, 6th, 7th. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Give the guy some credit. Give the guy some credit, because that guy's. Have you ever seen him out of condition?
He's underrated. He's one of those guys that just never. People don't hype him up. I don't know why. We have a couple guys on the forum that are constantly trying to remind us how good he is. But other than that, everyone's like, 6th place, second call out. Stupid comments like that.
They said the same about Phil Heath. Too narrow. He's 7 Olympias. So. But Bonac, he's consistent, and he's got Neil in his corner. And Neil sort of, he's not going to come in with a big belly. Neil won't let him get on stage like that. Yeah. So there's a guy and he works hard. He's kind of in Holland. He's away from everything. He's quite a private guy. He just gets on with it. That guy grafts. He really grafts. But I don't know. I could have. Well, was it Ronnie said we would have maybe had Bonac winning. I just, third. I wouldn't have argued him if he'd have beat Rami. I personally prefer it. I think he's a more complete physique than Rami. He's not as big, but he's more, like you said, everything's quality. There's a detail, it's separation, it's everything fits, and his rear shots, like his rear double bicep, his rear lat spread, he's so complete. I think at the Olympia last year, I think he was beating Phil Heath on the rear double bicep, and because he's just, you can't fault him, you can't pick a fault with him. Yeah. But so I'm really happy to see obviously how well he's done and how well he's continuing to do. I just don't see him, and he's still early 30s, so people are sort of writing him off every year, and I'm thinking, well, he's not like, you could say, oh, well, Dexter's going to slip this year, he's nearly 50, but he never does. He keeps maintaining, and he keeps sometimes getting better. Yeah. And then you've got William, who's injury-free, he's got Neil in his corner, and he's just a hard worker. He's never going to come in off. I mean, sometimes he seems to sort of fade on some of those post-Olympia pro shows, but that's because they've just done so many shows, and a lot of the guys do, Right. But William's not going anywhere soon. I'm telling you that now. He's never going to place out. I mean, like Louis Marco saying he won't place top 6. He's talking shit.
Louis Marco. Anyway, so.
Like you're gonna place top 6 at the Olympia next year. It's like, yeah, right, okay, mate, okay, whatever.
So Heath wins 7 of these now. I mean, do you see anybody in his way to get 8 and then 9, 10?
Just don't, mate. I just don't.
Yeah.
Don't. I mean, I know we all had high hopes for Cedric and obviously Dallas. I mean, everyone was kind of hoping that he would, move up. Maybe. I can't think of anyone that really. Rami. Don't know. Bonac, I just don't think Bonac's got that knockout punch. I think Bonac's I just don't see it. I can't think of anyone that that guy's who's got the age and everything on their side to really, because I'm hoping to God Phil doesn't come in with that stomach next year, because if he does, he's...
Supposedly that was because of his double hernia, which he had operated on shortly after, right?
I don't know. I don't know. What did he have the hernia in 2013 when his belly was hanging out? I mean,
probably not. That was just a big
Hani Rambod really needs to address that, because if he comes in with that again, the judges might go, right, we're going to penalise you for it now, 4th place. Yeah.
It's funny. Phil said, he said this more than once, but I wonder how true it is. He says, "You guys, you'll appreciate me when I'm gone." We talk crap about him, and we don't really appreciate him, and I'm guilty of this, probably as much or more than most people. But, when he's gone, when he's retired, we'll look back and say, you know what, Phil was actually pretty damn great, and we didn't quite recognize him for it during his reign.
I am not saying Phil isn't great. I think he's absolutely fucking fantastic. The problem is he's almost too good. It's like he makes it look effortless. He is absolutely incredible. I mean, he probably is going to win more Olympias than anyone's ever won, but I think a lot of it's to do with his is what he gives out, his attitude. I spent some time with him in 2014. I was at the FIBO, and I bumped into Jay Cutler at the hotel, and I was grabbing some food, and Jay says, who you with? I said, all the Ronnie and all that was Ronnie Coleman. She says, they all gone train. I said, I just wanted to get some food. I said, my diabetes is, I've only been diagnosed, And he says, come and sit with us. And we kind of sat with him and Phil and some business guy who had a supplement company. Yeah. And I spent probably 2 hours in his company, and he was very respectful. Jay just said, look, this is a friend of mine, Giles, he's a good guy, and he was very respectful, very completely the opposite of the person he sometimes actually manufactures. Actually, it's like he's acting. Yeah, it's
a persona. It's a persona.
But I don't understand it, though, because he's not helping himself. Because and I've met him a couple of times since, and I speak to his friends. Like he's got a couple of friends, one from college, and Big Chris Wilson, and they speak so highly of him. Flex Lewis speaks highly of him, and I'm just thinking, I don't understand it, because like whenever I see him on stage or when he's got the microphone, he's biting, he's rising to things, he's easily baited. He comes across quite arrogant, but I don't think that's really him. I honestly don't think that's really him, and I'm a little bit baffled as to why he has taken on this persona that he seems to be feeding all the time, and I don't think it's helping him, because the fans, it's not endearing himself to the fans. But I don't believe that's the real him. I think he's actually quite a decent guy. I think it seems like he comes across like he's almost like quite unhappy, and I don't get it, and I don't want to see people booing Mr. Olympia, because it's like he's the pinnacle,
That's our champ for 7 years in a row. Come on, guys.
Yeah, maybe he needs to just change his approach, and I think he would win the fans back like that, because things about bodybuilding fans, I've got to say it now, they're quite fickle. Remember 2008 when Jay beat... when Jay lost to Dexter, and the year before when Victor Martinez, 2007, when Victor Martinez should have beaten him, arguably. Yeah. People, I remember on the MD forum, people were posting pictures of like refrigerators with Jay's head on it. They were ripping into him. And then what happened? Jay came back at the 2009 Olympia, absolutely sensational. Everyone's like, we love Jay, Jay, he's amazing. And he won all those fans back, and he's managed to, and that's how it stayed ever since. Yeah. So I think I think if Phil just thought, do you know what, I'm actually just not going to do it. I'm not going to script my speeches. I'm not going to pretend to cry. I'm just going to be myself, and I'm just going to say, well, if you don't like me for that, whatever. And I think it would work in his favour, and I think he would win a lot of fans very quickly, because we want to get behind that guy, because he is an absolutely incredible champion. And yeah, I think he just needs to drop the persona, and I think he'll win a lot of people around.
Agreed. Well, we've been yapping for nearly an hour here, because that's what we do when we start talking bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So
I'm getting warmed up now, mate. I'm getting warmed up.
I know. Well, we'll talk again soon about the Arnold for sure. So I know this is going to air after Christmas, but I want to wish you and Rosie very Merry Christmas. Make sure you get enough to eat and all that figgy pudding or whatever it is you guys eat over there. I don't know.
She's dieting, mate. She's dieting.
Oh God, that's right.
We're not really doing this Christmas this year. Actually, we're kind of skipping it.
Is she dieting for the Arnold?
No, the London show.
Oh, the London show, which is 2 weeks later?
A week after.
A week after, okay. I'm really up on things, aren't I? Okay. I gotta keep track of things a little better. Well, all right. Well, so I appreciate you taking the time, Giles. You're always a pleasure to talk to. Always have some amazing insights that I never would have even thought of. So it's always cool having you on here. So for the Ronline Report, it's been Ron Harris with the one and only Giles Tiger Thomas. We'll talk to you next year or shortly after. Bye-bye.
Cheers.